When I was looking at these Chaos Spawn models, I couldn't help think that there was something familiar with these guys. And then suddenly, it just clicked together. These guys look like they were from two completely different universes. My name is SpongeMurphy, and this is how to paint Chaos Spawn. The first guy I looked at was the Eyeball Man, and to me, he looked like one of those classic monsters from the 1950s. And I had a book about science fiction movie posters, and before I even opened it, I spotted something on the back. The Creature from the Black Lagoon was a 1954 monster movie that was in black and white, but the movie posters had the Gillman in full colour, and I knew straight away that this is how I'm going to paint this guy. With the colour chosen, I started off with a base coat of wog flesh across all his flesh. I wanted to start darker and build it up to a lighter green. When dry, I shaded the skin with Biltang green, and this is where I might have made a slight mistake. Just out of pure habit, I put the shade on after the base coat, but with the next colour being a lot brighter, I should have left it until then. I then took out some Warboss green, and this is a nice mid-tone green, and I layer it on the raised parts, which is mostly flat on the body, a lot of muscle tone on his arms, but on his back there's a lot more lumps and bumps. For the highlight, I went with Scarsnet green on the raised edges. The one thing I wish this guy had was some scales on his body like the Gillman does, and there was no way I was going to be able to freehand a few hundred scales on. So I decided to add some light skin spots on his chest and on his shoulders. This was done with Scarsnet green that was heavily diluted with laminin medium, and I painted on individual spots across the model. I thought this was going to be a lot harder than I thought, but with full concentration and a steady hand, I got it done in no time. Now this is where I should have added the Biltang green on, to slightly darken all the green down and settle more into the dark base coat. So I added a lighter shade of it on this time by adding more laminin medium into the mix, because I didn't want to overdo it with the shading. And this really helped the highlights and the skin spots blend in a lot better. For his nails and the awesome hoofs that he has, I based them with Wraithbone, shaded them with Skeleton Horde, and then carefully brought back the edges up with Ushapti Bone. Everything was looking good so far, and it was time to move on to his eye. Well, there's three actually, because I didn't even notice that he had two smaller ones on each side of the big eye. The Gillman had these faded yellow eyes, so I wanted to do it that way with them, so I started off with a base coat of Corax white. And then I painted in this vertical pupil like a cat's eyes with Corvus black. To get that faded yellow, I heavily diluted contrast paint Iyanden yellow and added 2 layers on it just to get it right. As much as I love the look of the Gillman, I am happy that Eyeball Man doesn't have lips, because there's no way I could bring myself to give him bright red lipstick lips. But I would have liked another colour on him just to break the green up a bit, and that's when I spotted the feathers on his left side of his arm. Since I didn't want to do red, I thought purple was the right middle colour, so I based it with Genestealer purple, shaded it with Skeleton Horde, and then added a final highlight of the Chala Lilac. After adding him onto a swamp base, Eyeball Man was finished, and I'm super happy how he looks. But now, it's time to move on to the other spawn monster. When I first looked at this guy, I immediately thought of Resident Evil. After looking up monsters from the series, I couldn't quite find a monster specifically, but I just got that Resident Evil mutated vibe from him. So I decided to have him in plain flesh colours. So I based him with Wraithbone. I then layered on 2 thin coats of Rackart flesh. I made sure not to put the shade on yet. When dry, instead of going with my usual Guilliman flesh, I decided to use Reikland flesh shade, because with the lighter Reikland, it lets the pale colour come through more rather than have a more pinkish shade. For highlighting, I switched it to Flayed One flesh, and there is a lot of bumps and edges on this guy, so I made sure that I took my time with it. With the skin covered, I moved on to the many spikes on his back and his left arm. These were painted with a Wraithbone base coat, shaded with Skeleton Horde, and then a final highlight of a Shopty Bone to finish him off. And there we go, 2 Chaos Spawn, 2 completely different paint schemes, but both look right at home in a Death Guard army. Although the Eyeball Man kinda leans a little bit more towards fantasy. The cool thing with the Spawn is that no two need to look alike. You can experiment with whatever colours or textures you like, and they'll still look chaotic and gross on the battlefield. But if you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more Death Guard painting guides, and let me know in the comment section how you'd paint your own Chaos Spawn. And I'll see you guys in the next video.